Welcome to BTFDtv. My name is Jack Barnes, and if you've watched the Macro Tourist Hour at any time in the last, I don't know, 4 years or so now, you know that this is where Uncle Bob and I kick off each show. And in this case, we go to him, and he has a few quick comments about politics in the U.S. before we start discussing global political implications. This episode, to be clear, will be a short one with a lot of different topics. We have Uncle Bob. You know how to pronounce these words far better than I do. Ebola in the U.S. Would you say that's a fair statement?
Ebola
in the U.S.
Ebola. Well, you know, there are certainly 2 confirmed cases. There is word that was spread on the Twitterverse, which I have not seen any confirm of, that there are 145 cases.
Oh, that was shut down immediately. That was a Yahoo. I saw Yahoo announce that someone sent an unauthorized post. So they're not even claiming hacked. They're just like some idiot on the inside said it.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, I happened to be out when it came across, and people were screaming and yelling. I said, that's absolute bullshit. The virus doesn't pass that way, and first off, it takes a long while for officials to confirm it via blood tests, as we've seen in Canada, throughout Europe, a bunch of different places in Europe, rather.
So I guess my first question is, because it was coming out at the start of our last episode, what are your thoughts about it being professionally moved to Western hospitals to treat Westerners who have caught it? Should we keep the Westerners in Africa and say, them's your lucks, or should we be flying them home?
No, I think we were in a unique situation here where we had a very limited number of people that were involved. We had the ability to move them. The flights were actually paid for by a 501c3 organization. They apparently cost upwards of $200,000. I mean, I don't know if it was $300,000 or $500,000 or what, but upwards of $200,000. And they were able to transport them. They were specially developed vehicles for doing such a thing. They were able to move them. I have sound coming from my room here. I think my wife undid her plug for a second there, but it's fixed now. Anyway, they were able to transport them. Did apparently give them this drug that is in developmental stages, and I forget the company off the top of my head who is the developer of that particular drug. It's an American-based company.
It comes from tobacco, of all things. Did you hear about that?
I did know that. Yes, I did. That's where they develop it.
Yeah. And it was something like GMO tobacco or something. It was.
Well, you know, it's interesting. The doctor. Now, you know, I heard spurious reports on various major news networks about the death rate, saying it's 90%. That apparently is not true based on everything I've read. And
I'm reading 55 to 80% based upon the country and your luck of their health care.
You are that's precisely within the numbers that I'm working with here. Although this was reported on a major news network Saturday morning, 90%. This woman said quite unequivocally, as if she knew it. What a jerk. What a jerk. But anyway, it appears to me, based on everything I've heard to date, now of course it could change, because as I understand it, the way the disease operates is people tend to have a little bit of waves and feel better and feel worse. But I think they are still both doing well. We have not heard much about them.
No, we haven't. All right, so we didn't hit D.C. so much. Is there anything to report outside of rumors that Hillary tossed someone under the bus today? I haven't actually seen the quotes.
We can talk about that, but I think the most interesting thing that come out of D.C. are 2 different items. And one is the fact that the Obama administration has clearly taken a different tact, given his atrocious, abominable, you put in your own adjective, polling numbers. He has decided to try to reach out to the press. and has now made, over the past 4 weeks, has he made 5 different steps in front of the press, taking questions. I find that fascinating. But the other interesting thing, or the only other interesting thing to mention, is the cavalcade of potential 2016 candidates on the Republican side going through Iowa and spending time and saying what a lovely place Iowa is.
All right, so let's move on over to the Ukraine. Rumors are that the highly dysfunctional government in the Ukraine is grinding home a win over the separatists, and that Russia could be looking at sending in a humanitarian invasion. And rumor is that Germany has actually put their foot down, whatever that means, and stated that any invasion is an invasion, even a humanitarian one will be considered an invasion. Thoughts?
Well, a couple different things, because you threw out a bunch of different items there. Word was, with the humanitarian issue, word was that Russia was remarking tanks and various military equipment that basically said that we're coming on a humanitarian basis. I don't know that any of those have flowed through. Have not seen it. But this is the interesting point.
Would they be painting them blue like UN equipment? Are you talking about?
No. They were actually Russian vehicles, Russian tanks that they were marking over with humanitarian
logos.
I guess is it Cyrillic language? I believe it's Cyrillic. I'm not certain. But Zero Hedge just reported within the last 10 minutes that Russia's actually asking for a ceasefire, and Ukraine has absolutely rejected it. They said they will only accept complete and total surrender. I don't know if that's true. I'm just reporting what I've seen.
I read something on that also, where the leader of the other organization was requesting a ceasefire, and the Ukrainian said, yeah, by all means, put your guns down and hoist up a white flag.
Yeah, I mean, the balance of power has clearly changed there, and it appears, at least at the moment, and this may change by the time we wake up in the morning, that Putin has decided he's had kind of enough. And whether that is internal pressure from the oligarchs within Russia, who I've been reading for 3 weeks on end, were putting pressure on Putin about their ability to reach their funds, to generate revenues, etc., etc., etc. I'm not sure about that. Who's that guy?
We may have a guest dropping in.
Oh my God!
There's
can you hear me?
That we can hear you great. Welcome back.
well, thanks for having me. You caught me feeding cattle.
So, first of all, what are your thoughts out on the cattle range these days about the global implications of the idiocy?
Which idiocy are you referring to? There's a lot of it going around.
Well, that's just it. Which is the top 3 for you? Would it be the bug in Africa? Would it be a war in the Middle East? Or would it just be stupid Americans?
I think you could put a D, all the above. I don't know. I mean, the Ebola deal has gotten a little out of hand from what it started.
First, I believe they what I heard is that the first case now has been tracked back to a 2-year-old in December, and then it was then his family, and then from there out.
Well, were they feeding him bats?
Don't know how he got it. Just he's the epicenter, they believe. So I guess, what do you think about them flying home the Americans?
Well, I think probably it was more so they could get them home and study them and try to figure out a vaccine or a cure. I mean, they can't really do a lot of testing with people in Africa, or probably not efficiently. I mean, it probably is not the smartest idea, but if you're going to head it off, you got to get a sick patient to start working on. I mean, that's what I see. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense. Why they're not bringing them here just to expose everybody. I mean, realistically.
All right. So let's go to commodity markets. Is anyone going to survive the corn collapse of 2014?
The guys who are hedged are going to do
Buy
pretty well.
cattle.
Yeah, I mean, most guys probably have enough money made the last 3 or 4 years that it won't pinch them too bad this year. But, you know, if corn prices stay down for another couple, 3 years, that doesn't do a lot of favors for cash flows. And if people went out and leveraged up, got a bunch of debt on the books, that's, you know, how do you service that revenue, or how do you service that debt with a decreased revenue stream? I mean, that's going to be the biggest challenge I see going forward is, you know, did guys over leverage in the good times? You know, and that won't be known for another 2 or 3 years.
Are you carrying any forward hedges anymore?
Yes. Yeah. I've lifted some in 15, a little too early, you know, thinking the bottom was in. And I don't know that we'll just completely collapse overnight. We've kind of already done that. I mean, we've already had a falling out in the markets, but I think, I mean, hell, I don't know. I think you've got to look at not only 15 but 16, and those are the years that are really going to get guys in a bind if we make a record crop and if the next year is good. And, you know, there's that's a long ways out there to speculate on just how bad it could get. But,
hey, Jared,
you know,
I see you talking online. It may have been this morning, it may have been yesterday, it may have been a combination of a few days about the impact on land prices. And maybe you could just speak to that a little bit, because I'll tell you, it looked like a kind of a painful discussion for a lot of people, not for you, fortunately, but about the change in land prices and what this means to the land values.
Well, I've long held the belief that land got way too high, you know, prior to all this. I mean, when land selling for $14,000, $15,000 an acre in the Midwest, how do you justify that from a cash flow standpoint? How do you, you know, raise a crop and make the pay for the land?
How do you flow those numbers?
It hasn't done that long before this came along. You know, it was just guys ran it up and land went up because it was going up. I mean, you've seen a scenario play out in the housing market. I mean, you live in a certain neighborhood or you farm in a certain county, you were, you know, pseudo wealthy on paper. And I mean, I whether it comes back down, you know, as long as there's people willing to buy, then land is worth that. But I don't think it's worth it, and so I don't buy it. So there you go.
So you're not buying that big huge spread down in Texas?
No, I'm about $724 million short from my.
That's a fascinating tale. You know, Jack, we should one of us should try and post something on that a little later.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing that they held it together as long as they did. I mean, that's a huge ranch, and you know, the thing is, it's become more of a it'll be more of a tourist type deal. You know, it's a big famous ranch because it's big and famous. Now, is it productive in today's terms? You know, if managed properly, but could you pay that out? I don't think you could.
I mean, they were talking about some has some oil generation, natural gas generation that's going on, but then I read two big pieces or three big pieces on it, and said that much of the land, you know, that was ill-defined, had not even been explored for the same. So,
yeah. All right. Well, I mean, they probably know if gas is there or not, and my guess is there probably is where it's located, and I think you could just break it up in little pieces and sell it to all the hippies in Dallas for twice or three times what it's valued at now.
Billion. Make them from Dallas. It's a long ways, isn't it?
Make them a little dude ranch with like 2 goats and an emu or something.
Ow!
Wait, don't we want to raise ostriches?
You know, ostriches and emus are one of those things that come around. It'll be a big hype, and everybody will go. You know, people will go buy big pens and pay $10,000 for a female emu or ostrich, and then it'll just fall out. And you know, they'll try to sell like oil to rub on your joints and shit, and it's only came and gone about 15 times. And you know, the next sucker that steps up is going to get burnt, just like the last one did.
Well, what is the market? There's one of these markets, and I don't think it's llamas. I don't know if it's emus, because emus are from Australia, at least in my knowledge base. But there's some bird from South America that they were limiting, and I've seen the ads on TV, not recently, but 12 months ago, 18 months ago, about these birds, and they were apparently limiting the supply that was being delivered to the United States to, ostensibly to keep the price up.
Yeah, it's the little-known emu cartel.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, these, all these fringe crops and fringe animals, they're cute, and a lot of people that have extra money and time get into them, but they're just, they're not any kind of a mainstay product, and probably, there's no market for it other than, some farmers market in the suburb, or, there's some niche somewhere.
You mean like grass-fed cattle?
Well, grass-fed cattle's becoming a little more of a niche, but, ironically, corn is a grass, so go figure that.
All right, Jared.
I love when people are like, they bend over backwards to go buy all this fancy shit, and then they don't even realize what they're buying. But, hey, more power to them. If it makes them happy, good.
Marketing, brother. Marketing. All right, I got one for you, Jared.
I know.
What are your thoughts about Iraq? And there appears to be a coup going on while we're talking, where the current government leader was losing support, right? So he appears to have launched a coup on himself. So you have the leader trying to take over. You have the old bifurcated government that's trying to stay in power. You have the ISIS terrorists. You've got the Iranian ISIS. You've got the Iranian advisors, the American advisors. Thoughts on Iraq? Could it get any worse?
I don't know. I mean, just seeing the pictures and stuff that comes out of there. I mean, I can't imagine if you're just a human being living over there. Regardless of who your God that you prayed to was. I mean, that's just scary stuff that's happening from a humanitarian standpoint. You can't. I mean, how you put logic into that kind of craziness is beyond me. I mean, I don't know that if you were, how can you solve that screwed up of a problem? Is my question. I mean, I guess I'd lead with that thought. Is where do you go from here?
Yeah, Jack, I have a couple thoughts on that. I mean, I just love the whole branding issue here. It's gone from ISIS, ISIS, to ISIL, to it's now IS.
Yes.
That's, and this is
I've never heard of a bunch of terrorists change their names more often than this group.
No, in a matter of 2 weeks. And, I think it's an absolute hot mess. Apparently, just to put a little bit of flavor on it, from the real stuff, and you got to read so much of the bullshit to get down to real stuff. But apparently, the U.S. and Iraqi Army forces have basically forced out. I'm going to call them IS. How about we call them IS for now? They forced them out of some of the key Kurdish areas, or areas that they were getting ready to attack, and that includes the big dam that holds the Euphrates River, which apparently, for 48 hours, everybody was very concerned about, but nobody really knows. What is very interesting to note here is the U.S. government has been absolutely silent on Maliki's activities this evening. There are reports that there are checkpoints around the city of Baghdad that are trying to protect the front in Baghdad. Now realize, guys, it's like 2 in the morning in Baghdad right now. There's not a whole lot happening. People aren't exactly rocking out in Baghdad.
Oh, they might be from the sounds of it.
I have a thought. Those people live over there where it hasn't rained in like 300 years. They might all just be pissed off that they're in like a never-ending drought.
I'm going to let that one go.
Euphrates River is a very rich delta.
All right, so did you guys hear about the efficient use of military in humanitarian support? Supposedly, the poor people on the Hill, I don't know if you heard about it, but there's somewhere between 10 to 40,000 people up on top of a hill where they've been told to convert or die. And the Americans, before we started dropping bombs, supposedly did a humanitarian run. Rumors are that the humanitarian mission did not include parachutes, and we basically dropped the supplies on them at 15,000 feet.
Yes, that was, I believe, a Guardian report that came out this morning that I retweeted twice. So if you look in the IUU Bob timeline from about 6 a.m. Central Time, you'll see it reissued twice. It's an interesting article. It's the first guy that actually got on the ground that got near that mountain, and it's ostensibly accurate. No one has been able to dismiss it at this point.
Do you think they would really just push it out of the plane and be like, "Good luck with that, guys"? I mean, do you think they just didn't put parachutes on that, or they?
I think perhaps one. Well, no, I thought that it was that there were parachutes on it, but that it had gotten dropped from 15,000 feet and hadn't slowed down enough when it hit the mountain, and a substantial amount of the supply. And actually, part of my tweet,
bombed them. What you're saying is we bombed them with non-explosive food.
You'll have to look to my tweet and look to the article. I actually quote the piece in the second of the two tweets. I sent out the first one. I then quoted it in the second one, and I believe our friend Nicole Trades also retweeted me out, as did a number of other people. So it's readily available. You can read it. It's only about the fourth paragraph down, and again, I've included it verbatim in my tweet.
All right.
Well, do you think that they actually dropped GMO-free supplies? I mean, was this
no, we definitely gave them GMO. I'm going to say we gave them the old GMO in this case.
Well, I mean, is the water organic? I mean, these are important questions. Parents be damned. We need to know.
You know, when
like,
you're starving and dying on a mountaintop, is the water GMO or not?
Hey. That's the same idiot argument that the people make here. I may be bitching about where it came from. No. Sorry, I had to get a shot in. The interesting report that
came out. That's okay. We can joke about it a little bit because fortunately we're not on the mountain. But there was a subsequent report that came out that 500 people were buried. First reports came out that 500 were buried alive. It was then said that 300 of these people were buried alive. They decided not to. They are an ancient Christian sect.
Actually, I heard they were from before Christians.
Sorry?
I heard that they were from before Christians. They're older than Christianity.
Well, I mean, it may be that they're from before Christianity, but they accept a lot of the precepts of Christianity. They're generally considered to be. I mean, I did about 2 or 3 hours on this bullshit. I mean, I can't make myself an expert in that amount of time, but they are identified as Christians within the community.
Okay. So, what's the most pressing issue that we are facing today?
I think Jared's cows.
Jared's cows? Well, I thought he was going to put like tumbleweeds on them and declare them like in hiding or something.
Well, I mean, I'll give you my view while Jared's getting his camera ready.
They haven't matured yet.
Well, we have you, Jared.
There you go. That's.
But my view is Ebola. I want to see you with the saxophone, or no, what was it? Trombone? The guy from Kansas. It was from the Flint Hills of Kansas, not far from where I once lived. Blowing the trombone, bringing all the cattle in. Did you see that, Jared?
No, I didn't. What's the story?
Oh my God! Well, it was absolutely viral. It actually got shown on TV after I had seen it online.
Oh,
It got shown on TV at least twice. I saw.
The guy played trombone to get his cows to come in. I think I saw a picture of it or
Yeah.
something about it.
It was kind of cool.
Jared,
I mean,
Jared, what are your thoughts
animals
about
are.
the open border down south?
It's been open for decades. I laugh that people just now call it an open border. If you want in this country, it wasn't like some national secret how to get in. I mean, let's be honest. People have been crossing the border for years. I mean, and truth be told, they filled a lot of jobs that people otherwise didn't want. I mean, that's who works in packing houses and in urban areas, the jobs that people don't like, and they've been coming across for decades. So the fact that it's publicized now doesn't really change a lot in my view. I think it's just people are more aware of it, maybe, or they choose to be aware of it, I guess.
All right. Uncle Bob, what's the most pressing topic for you?
Well, I mean, I just want to say that I think of the topics we've discussed tonight, and we didn't discuss a topic you brought up to me earlier, which I told you was a fait accompli, which is those of us who kind of know the political game knew it was going to happen, and that is in Honolulu, the Democratic governor lost his primary attempt, and he lost it big. He got his ass kicked. That wasn't a big surprise to me, but I think the major issue that's going on is in the Middle East. And I was prodigious with my tweets, as I often am, very early before most people get up, railing about the fact that the major supporter of ISIS, or IS, is the IS organization, is actually Saudi Arabia. We've heard Qatar, you hear all these other ones, but the fact is the Saudis are pissed. The Saudis are pissed. The Saudis are very close with the Israelis on just these matters, and they said they were pissed. You go back and you look at press reports, and they were kind of quiet in subsidiary press reports, but from February, March, early April, they were all the same. The Saudis were out of their minds. And you know what?
ISIS exploded with power.
Tons of money to these guys. And also, the other thing to realize is, again, he was on Sunday TV along with his buddy Lindsey Graham, but our buddy John McCain has pictures of himself with these IS dudes, months ago. I mean, it's insanity. It's insanity.
Isn't this a pattern where haven't, like, the people over there, and I know that's a very general term, but haven't they been, like, getting American training and weapons? Like, this is the first time this has happened, as I understand it. I mean, this is like the second or third go-around where we train them, give them weapons, and then they turn around and go batshit nuts. I mean, that's am I wrong in that assumption, or in that way I look at it?
I'm just going to put it this way. The reports coming out tonight while we're talking is that the U.S. is evacuating staff from both Baghdad Embassy and the consulate in Erbil. So to me it sounds like we're pulling out when we're, going back in? Things become really ugly if we actually pull completely out and we don't return, right?
Yeah, well, that won't happen, Jack. Not in the short run. But I think Jared raises an excellent point that is worthy of further discussion, and that is that the U.S. has, and it's kind of somewhat well documented, that the CIA has provided training for ISIS or ISIL or IS, whatever the hell you want to frickin' call it, for quite some time. And then what these guys did was they walked through Syria, places that were not well taken care of by Assad's people, and then decided to kind of come across the border. And, the Iraqis that we had trained just left, just plain out left. Now, how many billions of dollars did this country spend? Let's not even talk about equipment. Let's talk about pure training costs. It's absurd. Absolutely absurd.
What if we just never did the team building exercises to begin with?
Yeah.
Just a thought. I don't know.
So, what happens in the next 2 years during this lame duckery? Thoughts? Because it doesn't appear that anyone is trying to be a leader. And
Well, you know, it looks like
that's a power vacuum waiting to be filled.
Yeah, Obama, by a lot of inside measures, he's kind of quit a little bit, which is very interesting. He's got 2 years to go, and he's just kind of quit because it didn't kind of work the way he wanted to work. Although I watched C-SPAN for literally hours. I'm the God's biggest turd. I watched C-SPAN for hours over the last 3 days, and it was incredible to see Michelle Obama. By the way, Michelle Obama is not from Chicago. I learned that. She's actually from Africa. I didn't realize that. She's native. That's what she said. I don't understand it. I don't understand. Valerie Jarrett was in retail. She was a marketing person. She is now like a major advisor to the President of the United States, and he listens to her. Are you freaking kidding me? This is why I call her Rasputin. I can't take it. I'm sorry.
Are you okay, Uncle Bob?
You continue to have faith in them. If you just abandon all hope, then it makes perfect sense. just know they're flawed.
I think it's absolutely incredible that a person who has sat in that position, and again, if you look at Washington Journal today from C-SPAN, which is available online, you can see the guy. He starts in the second hour, about 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, a.m. Mark M-A-R-C Ginsburg. B-E-R-G. He's a former major advisor to people. He actually goes into a rant about halfway through about Valerie Jarrett and calls it like it is and says that 15 senior people have left the administration because of her. And I'm telling you, there will be so many books aplenty when Obama's gone about this clown, Valerie Jarrett. I've been yelling about her since early 2009. She is a cyst on my butt.
All right. Jared, any last comments about the grain markets? We'll wrap this episode up. I understand you got some hungry heifers.
Already fed. I don't know. I think everybody expects a monster corn crop, and I was just tweeting about this a little bit ago. And I don't know that we're quite going to get a monster corn crop. It'll be big, but I think people are going to be surprised by maybe it won't be. And the plants themselves have used up a lot of everything, all their nutrients, water, whatnot, to get to this point. You don't continue to get great rainfall. You can't really add stuff back. I don't know that the corn crop nationwide is maybe going to be as big as people expect it to be. So, I mean, that's
all right. I got one question for you. How many acres did you plant last year? How many did you plant this year? How many you're planting next year?
I'll plant the same. I mean, I'm kind of bound by irrigation to raise a certain number year in, year out. I may change the mix a little bit, but I think that's a big question going forward next year is will the guys in the Midwest favor soybeans versus corn versus, some other crop? I think when you look for the top in the cattle market is when guys in the I states, being Iowa, Illinois, the Midwest typically, when they start looking at running cattle as opposed to growing crops, that's when you can say that the tide has turned, and that's years away.
Put some puts on.
Yeah, when you see Corey Corn going to Corey Cows, that's when you need to get worried.
Corey Cows. All right, so I guess the USDA had people call in and ask if someone could please explain what Corey Corn was.
I doubt that happened, but that would be hysterical if it did. You know, that just, it's awesome how fast things can travel if they catch on. You know, that
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks ago you and I were joking about it, and now people, you know, all over the United States are joking about Corey Corn. It's
Yes.
funny.
I'm actually under the impression that someone from the USDA called in to one of our regular ag people and asked on the call, like, can someone tell us what this Corey Corn thing is? You know, they were getting that there was something in the joke, but they didn't get the joke.
That's funny.
Well, on that bombshell, I think we're going to wrap up this episode. Jared, I want to thank you for dropping in. I understand you're going to have 4G someday soon. Is that true?
Yes, we out here in the sticks, they've officially told me that mid-September that they are going to offer 4G on mobile networks. So, as shocking as that may sound, we are just now getting to that level out here in the boonies. So that'll be fun. We can do some live from the combine this fall. Then it won't look like a bad internet video.
Hey, sounds good for me. Uncle Bob, you got anything?
Nope, that's about it, Jack. I already ranted.
All right, you already did your rant? All right, on behalf of BTFDtv, I'm Jack. That's Uncle Bob. The guy with the heifer and the cool glasses is Jared, and this has been our Sunday episode on what's happening in the macro environment, from a bad flu in Africa to civil war and not peace in the Middle East to your ag update from the field. We look forward to you guys joining us next week. Have a great day, and we'll be back. Oops.